Good afternoon, everybody. This is Christian Zsilavetz coming to you live from Decatur, Georgia. It is December 27th, 2016, and we've made it to our first holiday break at Pride School Atlanta. And the inquiries don't stop and the problems don't stop just because we're on break. And I wanted to speak today to remind people of why our school exists. And some people say that our school, Pride School Atlanta, is about segregation, and it's not. It's about a school that is needed for students whose needs are not being met in their current educational situation. And that could be academic, it could be social, it could be emotional, it could be all three. It could be about needing to be around people who understand you and are glad you are there. And it could be about everything all together. And we work to teach the whole student and support the entire student. And we don't just support students in our Pride School Atlanta small school, which will have about 15 kids come January, because we've had 7 new inquiries. 8, including the one I got today about a second grader. We support students wherever they are. And we've had outreach from Mexico, Toronto, England, South Georgia, North Georgia, Eastern, down by the water, all around the country, really. And one of the students we're working to support right now is down in Peachtree City. And this is a student who is transgender and is being harassed by their classmates yet again. And unfortunately, they've had to stay in their public school because, A, they're really far away from Pride School Atlanta. B, it's not always an option to jump ship. And so they've tried to soldier through, but now they're being cyberbullied by their classmates. And I just spent the last 30 minutes or so watching the board meeting from Fannin County, which happened in May 2016, because the board decided to go along with Title IX recommendations and support their transgender youth. And it was really sad to me to see that religion was being used to state that, A, transgender people don't even exist, or that, gay youth are wrong for being gay, and so many other arguments. And it just warmed my heart too to see our good friend Robin Ray Nelson up there, who's a trans woman, who was there taking pictures, and none of those people have any idea that they're actually speaking to transgender people in the room. That's the thing that gets me. Hundreds of people showed up in argument against providing bathroom access and locker room access for transgender students. I don't know how those kids go to school and walk around town knowing the anger and fear around them and the lack of support in the community. However, I applaud the LCSW who stood up in favor of trans youth and their families, and the young man, Austin Branson, I think was his name, who graduated from Fannin County in 2014 and is in support of providing rights to transgender students and not using religion as a backdrop of why trans students should have rights or not have rights. And I want trans youth and all youth. I mean, our school is not just about being transgender. It's about creating a space that's free of homophobia and transphobia. So we have a lot of transgender applicants and transgender students that we support, and otherwise gender fabulous youth who, it doesn't matter how you identify. Some of our students are LGBT identified and some of them are not, and some of our parents are LGBT identified, some of our teachers are, including myself. I'm a trans man. I have a wife and 2 kids. I started transition 10 years ago, and no matter whether you believe that LGBT youth have rights like everybody else, I ask you, if the tables were turned and we said that your student could not use the bathroom with which they've identified for years, what would you do? You know, keep in mind the majority of violence that happens in bathrooms happens same-sex and against gender nonconforming or gender diverse youth or transgender youth, and against transgender adults and otherwise gender nonconforming or gender diverse adults. There are many women who appear too masculine for some women to handle, and they are brutalized in bathrooms and forcibly removed from bathrooms just because somebody thinks they need to be the bathroom police and the pronoun police. And I want you to know, as a transgender educator who hid for a little while when I first transitioned, I realize now that this black and white version you see of me is what people see of me. They don't see me in full color when I'm walking through the grocery store. When I go to Pride School and when I'm out in the media now, I'm in full color. And it's so important to remember that you're just seeing a two-dimensional black and white image of somebody when you see them in the bathroom, when you see them in the locker room, when you see them in a classroom. They're never going to tell you who they really are unless you are a safe person. And it's life or death for most youth who are on the gender spectrum to be themselves. And when you realize who you are, whether you are cisgender, which means you identify with the gender marker you were assigned at birth, when you said, "This is who I am," nobody argued with you. When you were very clear, you're a boy or you're a girl, nobody argues with you. But when you're a little bit different, people argue. When you learn differently, people argue with you. When you have fears that other people don't have, people argue with you. And for all of you who are watching this video, I invite you to become three-dimensional, full color, wherever you can, and support our most vulnerable population: transgender, gender diverse, kids with different learning abilities, kids from alcoholic homes, kids who have been abused. You don't know who they are when they're standing in front of you. And so we can make assumptions about who our students are just because they come from a family that has money, just because they look gender conforming. And I will remind you, many trans women are football players. Many trans men have beautiful, long, blonde hair and wear dresses. But they're not going to tell you who they are until they're ready. And they may never tell you. And it's so important to remember, as an educator, as a parent, as a grandparent, as a neighbor, to honor our youth, no matter who they are. And yes, you don't have to believe the same things I believe in, but we are not a segregated nation by law. Now granted, there is still segregation in separate but equal, and if I told you you had to use the cisgenders only bathroom, and it was one single stall bathroom, you would argue. And if I told you you had to use the whites only bathroom, and everybody else got to use the big bathroom, you would argue. And so it's painful for me to know that there are thousands upon thousands of youth all around our country, no matter how they identify, who are discriminated against in so many different ways, and every bit that you do to support a youth who either doesn't look like you or looks like you, every little bit helps. And so I invite you, do one thing today to make yourself visible, walk through the fear, be an out ally, be an out grandparent, support your transgender children, support your transgender grandchildren, your nieces and nephews, and everybody in between. Honor somebody with the pronouns with which they ask. And if you don't understand, there are many resources out there, including Gender Spectrum and the Schools in Transition Guide, which is very easy to find online, and the Trans Health and Educational Alliance, which is THEA. You'll see that on our Pride School Atlanta resource page. And also genderdiversity.org is one of my favorite sites. And if you're not getting your needs met in your school, know that you are not alone. If you are a trans or queer educator, know that there are many of us out there, and we are coming out of the woodwork, and we are becoming three-dimensional and in full color. And while you may risk losing your job at the school in which you work, keep in mind you can always reach back to a school that you are previously connected with, or one in your neighborhood, where you can say, please support our LGBT youth educators and families, and make sure there's a place for them in our schools. And when the children are passing in the locker rooms, in the hallways, in the bathrooms, where there's not a lot of adult supervision, please pay attention to what's being said and what's being done, and watch for those signs of bullying in your students, and do what you can to teach your students to be interrupters, and administrators, teach your staff to be interrupters of anything. Whether you agree with it or not, it is your responsibility to interrupt bullying behavior and discrimination in your classrooms, in your hallways, in your locker rooms, in your sports, and around your town. And if you are a mandated reporter, it is your job to report when there are abusive situations. So please, this is Christian Zsilavetz, Director of Pride School Atlanta and co-founder, coming to you live from Decatur, Georgia. It's been a rough week, and I admire all of you who are fighting the good fight for whatever rights you are fighting. And one of my near and dear causes is LGBT youth educators and families. And when I say families, I mean if you have somebody in your family, anybody who happens to identify as LGBT or is gender diverse, that's family. And allies means people who stand up, not just people who walk by. Thank you, and have an excellent day. You can check us out at prideschoolatlanta.org if you're looking to get involved, send your child to us, or become one of our donors or sponsor our school and nonprofit organization. We'd love to have you. My email is christian@prideschoolatlanta.org, and my phone number, which is on the website, is 206-261-1092. And if you're looking to get a training for your school, your community organization, your faith-based organization, your business, please reach out to us, and know that if you need support, feel free to reach out to us. We will help connect you with other families, other educators, other support resources that can help you get through whatever you're dealing with. And again, know you will never be alone again in dealing with everything out there. Thanks. Have a great day.